Okay, we should be live. And you should have sound. Just picking the picture up myself. So do let me know as long as you can hear me, and hopefully it's nice and clear. I'm outside, as you can see. Let's have a quick look. That's definitely streaming. Let's have a quick look. Cool. Okay. So you should be able to hear me. Although the sun's come out, it's right behind me. I can't see anything. Typical. Right, let's put these screens up so I can see the comments and I can see myself. Cool, I'm glad you hear me. I might move my head. There we go. If I do that, then it will block the sun. Who'd have thought it? I'm sure there'll be a comment about this in a second, but who'd have thought my head would be big enough to block the sun? So that's where we're starting, is with my head being big enough to block the sun. Actually, I think it was Rachel. Was it you that commented earlier on my video last week about my ego? I think that was you. So yeah. Oh my God, Kathy says she's on her way with a thong. Okay. So good evening, everybody. I'm just gonna wait for just a minute or so just for people to jump in. Actually, do you know what? We're probably there. Let's just get started. I have got I've got a pink gin and lemonade this evening. It's a very summery outdoorsy drink. Was it not you, Rachel? I'm really curious as to who it was. Now, somebody commented last week. I'll just have a quick look. Somebody commented last week on the video that I did, where I was being very tongue-in-cheek last Saturday, and I'll just find out who it was a sec. Let me just find it. They commented last week on my tongue-in-cheek video, and because I was joking about, if you saw the video, I was joking about the size of the prison gates and saying I could understand why we weren't allowed to open because the gates were so small, and I was being quite sarky and stuff like that. And then somebody came on and said, you know, the gates can't be that small because you managed to fit your ego through it. And I just thought it was just the best comment ever. Who was it? Oh, it was Diane. Sorry, Diane Buffton. So I'll see if Diane joins. I'll flag it. But yes, my head is big enough to cover the sun. Really strange one this evening. Kathy, go ahead. Really strange one because I'm outside in my garden. So I've got like neighbors over there. I've got neighbors back over there. So, I mean, they might be able to hear me. I don't know. But we'll just crack on and go for it. Right, let me pick up the comments as they come through. So people going, just chatting away. Yeah, it's a lovely view, Simon. Thank you. Evening, Dave and Shirl in North Wales. In North Wales, you guys still on a 5 mile limit? Are you still not allowed to travel more than 5 miles, or has that been lifted yet? Kathy wants to plug the group. We'll have a look at that in a sec, Kathy. That's fine. If you want to put it in, Kathy, I'll pin it for you. So if you just put the link and everything, I can just pin the comment for you. Okay, right. Let's get started. No plan, no preparation. Yeah, that's it really. I've just had my 9-year-old kick off at me because she's just going up to bed, and I was doing a live, and she basically went, what is your live all about? Is it just going you blah 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 and people watching? So I've just had it to do with my 9-year-old, which is always a lovely start. Right. I haven't got any subjects at all tonight. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I kind of thought we would just go with the flow. I haven't been at work today. Actually, this week, shall I start there? This week's been a slightly different week for me because obviously we got disrupted Saturday without opening, not being able to open, which was a shame. So that threw us out. Sunday, I was doing various different bits and pieces and working and obviously trying to get stuff prepped for this week and figuring out what we were going to do. Monday was very much spent in, I did some interviews with the radio and stuff like that, and was trying to figure out a strategy. And I actually had I guess a backup plan should the announcement have not gone the way it did a couple of days ago with announcing we could open on the 4th. I did have a secondary plan in place. Thankfully, we didn't have to use it. We didn't have to execute it. So that can just go in the bins. That's all good. But yeah, so we did do that. And then yesterday I was in doing the live with Graham, with Officer Goodwin, came home, built a stone wall. So that's just over there. I can show you in a sec if you like, but basically I built a dry stone wall yesterday afternoon. And then today I did a couple of little bits this morning, not masses. And then to be honest, I've actually been gardening most of the day. So I've been up there gardening around by the greenhouse. And this afternoon I just spent it in the pool behind me with the kids. What's been really weird for me this week, and actually very, very different, is because my week's been slightly different in terms of not being in my office and not sat at my computer working the same way. It's meant I've not worked in the evenings, and that's a big thing for me. Normally what will happen is I will go to work during the day, whether it's at my office in the prison or at my office here, and then I will work normally till 5:30. I'll come home, I'll have a run, I'll get showered and changed, have something to eat. By that point, it's normally about 8:30. Kids are back, kids are in bed. And then what will happen is I'll then go back to work somewhere between 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I'll work through then till about 1 in the morning generally. And then up in the morning at about 7:30 and do it all again. But this week's been very different because that's just not been my routine. So I've not worked in the evening. So what I would normally do is 85-hour week plus. This week I'm probably going to do closer to half of that, maybe 40 hours. And whilst that's really nice in terms of being able to do other stuff around the house and the garden, things like that, it feels quite lazy, if I'm honest. And I don't mean that in a nasty way or a patronizing way, but just for me, I love working. As you guys know, you guys watch me quite a lot, and you obviously see me do my posts, my videos and stuff. And I love working. For me, it's not a chore; it's a passion. It's like a hobby. And I guess if for those of you who have hobbies, whether it be things like going into golf or walking or whatever it might be, and you love to do that, that's what work is for me. It's an absolute passion. So the fact I've only been able to do it for 40 hours this week rather than for 85 hours, I kind of feel a bit deflated by that, I think. And actually, I'm really looking forward to the rain coming tomorrow because it means I'll be back in the jail, and I can do a proper day. So that's kind of my week, I guess, in a nutshell, like that. Let me just pick up some of these comments because I can see a couple of comes in. If I slow my words slightly, it's because I'm drinking pink gin, but I have had a couple of ciders this afternoon as well. So I've had a few drinks today, which is not normally my course of action. So I did notice I was slurring a couple of words. Future plans to take over former prisons. Rachel, I haven't. I've got plans for castles. Castles is my next move. There aren't really any other prisons at the moment that I think would be suitable. I think Reading is another prison to look at, but it's a massive place, Reading, and it will have to be a combination of development work and tourism and art. Quite a big multi-faceted approach really at Reading. So that will depend on who buys it. I'd love to get involved with it, but let's see who buys it. But to be honest, I'd actually rather spend my time at the moment concentrating on Shrewsbury, concentrating on the one in Shropshire, and Shepton Mallet, because I think I know we've got two fantastic prisons there, two fantastic attractions that we can make world class. Obviously, at the moment, looking to buy Shrewsbury. I've been working behind the scenes, which I haven't been talking about a lot, and I'm not going to give too much away. I can't talk about it too much, but I have been working quite hard behind the scenes as well with Shepton for longer term plans. So those I'm hoping we will unveil in the next month. So some point in July, I hope to be able to release more information about that. But we have been looking at that quite a lot, and I've been working, like I say, quite a lot behind the scenes on that as well. This is what happens my 85 plus hours a week. So I'd rather concentrate on those two and get them really good, really pumping, really flying, than take on another place. and just spread ourselves a bit too thin. But I am looking at some castles, so we'll sort of see how that goes. There was a couple of castles that struggled out the back of this. I think Whittington Castle struggled, or was saying they were struggling. I've emailed them a few times, but they've not come back to me. Just about how we could potentially help and support and stuff like that. So Lord Campbell, it's got a nice ring to it, let's be honest. I'm just flicking through the comments. Cider and gin, passion is not mixed, obviously. Get to where you are now. Oh, wow, Laurie, that's a big question. I guess I'll go into that in a second. Laurie's just asked, how did I get to where I am now? She's 37 and fancies a career change. I'm going to like that comment because I think that's a great comment. So I'll go into that in a second, I guess, Laurie. Mental asylums, yeah, psychiatric hospitals, I guess. I think anything that sits in the dark tourism world is a sweet spot for us and for our company. And for what we do in the tourism world. So I think anything like that works, but I've got to be honest, I always sort of, when I speak to people and we talk about what we do in dark tourism and stuff, and we talk about different areas, and I speak to people about taking over things like hospitals and stuff like that, you'll get some parts of the business will work, but people aren't really going to do tours in the same way. The reason prisons work so well is because, again, you've got a huge range of different things you can operate. And the tours are fantastic. You just won't get the same level of tours on hospitals, even hospitals with a big chunk of history. It's not the same. Everyone can go to a hospital. Anyone can just walk into a hospital when they want to. Can't do that in a prison. It's not quite the same in castles either. So there's more of a macabre and more of an interest and more of a hidden world, which prisons kind of bring you. So. Kathy, I'm at your front door. Should I just come round? I need some help with my blow up pineapple. Kathy, I'll tell you what, if you're at my front door, I'd see you from here. I can literally see all the way to the bottom end of my garden. So I'd be able to see you. More importantly, I'd be able to hear you. So I know you're not here, Kathy. I'd have heard you coming down the road. Right, 4th of July. Yes, we're opening 4th of July. Shepton's open now, funny enough. I mean, I don't want to go into it too much because I feel like I'll get back on my soapbox and I'll start kicking off. It just amazes me how you can have two different councils looking at the same legislation and interpret it in completely different ways. So we've had Mendip Council, who are the council in charge of everything down in obviously Mendip in Somerset, which are the Shepton Mallet group. So they would obviously enforce legislation down there. We've been able to opened on the 20th as planned. They sent us grant funding, so they sent us £10,000 in grant funding, which is what we would be entitled to at Shepton. So we got that, and that was fairly plain sailing. It took a little while, but it was fairly plain sailing. Whereas Shropshire Council refused to give us any grant funding. They sent me an email yesterday confirming that we are not entitled to anything and to basically stop asking. So that's what I got yesterday. And obviously, you know the story about not being allowed to open. So, and they are both following exactly the same legislation. And that's why when I say it's open to interpretation, that's what I mean, because two different councils operating completely differently on the same legislation. It's a bit crazy. And if you've seen the images today of people at the beach, Christ, do you know what I mean? Like, I watched those earlier and I was just oh, the apple's just fallen off the tree. And I understand why people are going and stuff like that, but it does frustrate me, as I'm sure it frustrates a lot of you, because I've been locked down for so long, and then just seeing, I guess, quite almost a careless attitude taken about it, with people out and about and today at the beach. My dog's got stuck. I'm gonna have to get a letter out. And that's frustrating because I know that we can social distance so much better than that in the prison, but yet we're not allowed to. So that was quite annoying. Okay, let's have a quick look at these. So, yeah, the council, yeah, they've been difficult. I'm going to have to let my dog out. 2 seconds. I do apologize. Enjoy the view. So just unlock my dog. She's got her lead stuck. Hold on. You can come say hello? Come say hello? No, you're going to eat apples. I do apologize. This is what happens when I come outside. I get disturbed by all sorts of stuff. Okay. Right, let's move on to this because I think this is more exciting. Because I could whinge and moan about the council as much as I like it. I'm going to make a blind bit of bloody difference. My job is to go, right, that's their decision. That's how they're going to do it. We'll just get on and just do what we do, and not whinge and moan about it or whine. I'm just going to crack on with it. So let's pick up on. Yeah, I'm not getting in the pool. I've already put the cover on. Does the dog ever jump in the pool? The dog hates water. Six, come here. I'll see if I can get her to come say hi. Come here. Come say hello. Come here. Come here. Come here. She doesn't like water. Come here. Come on. Six, come here. What's this? No, she doesn't want to say hello. I have to move on the computer. Six. Suki. What's this? What's this? There she is. She hates water. She's Siberian Husky. Do not like water at all. So she stays well away from the pool. Right, Laurie. Laurie, let's pick up on your comments. So Laurie asked basically what it was. Oh, it's starting to rain now as well. How did I get to where I am now? That's a really long. It's a really long response, I think. I just can't shorten it. I'd always wanted to run my own company. I'd always wanted to do that. So I knew that from a young age. But I spent from when I first started working, when I was, I don't know, 12, doing paper rounds, all the way through till 28, I think I was when I started my first company. So that entire time I worked for other people, and I just learned lots and lots of different things, learned lots of different skill sets, and then tried to basically apply those as I started in my first business. Ultimately, I made lots and lots of mistakes. And I think that's probably one of the best pieces of advice is you make yourself successful in business by getting things right. And you get things right through experience, and you gain experience by getting things wrong. And that's kind of a natural way. Soups, get away. But I suggest if you want to do something different, do something different. Don't get stuck into just doing the same thing. Bloody dog. Hold on. You doing to dog? You and the kids. This is what I do live inside. For God's sakes. This is why I do it in psych, it disturbs me. I get out of my flow, and it's boring for you guys. If you want to do something different, do something different. That is the best piece of advice I can push out there, because life is, you're not here for a long time. And it's cliche to say you're not here for a long time, so make sure it's a fun time. But at the same time, it is, as I say quite a lot, it's all about the journey. The destination is the same for every single one of us. So don't do something you don't enjoy, because life is too short. And if that means that you've got to sacrifice certain things to be able to do what you want to do, then make those sacrifices. If that's what you're going to love and be passionate about, do it. And I guess it's quite appropriate to talk about that now as I'm sat outside in the swimming pool, because, you know, I can give you a quick 360 tour of the garden, the house, and stuff like that. I don't show that much of it. It's not that I don't talk about it or show it. It's just, it's not my go-to, because like I say, only a couple of years ago, we still sat in nearly 80 grand's worth of debt. And the reality is now we don't have any debt, and we've got a really nice house. But it took, you know, a lot of time to do that, and I had to make a lot of sacrifices to get there. And one of the things that I do a lot more when I share things and when I talk about stuff is I talk more about the journey, which is why you see lots of posts about me going, right, I'm off to work, right, I'm at the jail, right, I'm in my office, right, I'm in the jail, right, I'm going to have this meeting, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, this is next bit, I'm in my office in the evening, taking some selfies and stuff like that, because you're seeing the journey as opposed to the rewards. I do showcase the rewards, but not as much. And certainly I'm not one of those people that posts lots of photos with big nice flash cars and expensive suits and expensive jewelry. You can see I've got a hair tie on my wrist. I'm not one of those kind of people that tries to do that. What I try and showcase is the journey, because that's the real bit, but also that's the fun, exciting bit. I mean, I love going on holiday, and we have a 2-week holiday as a family every year where we just go away, or we have done for the last couple of years, where we just go away for 2 weeks and that's it. That's just what we do. That's kind of how I unwind, is I do it for a 2-week period once a year, and I love it. And it's great. I just turn myself off for 2 weeks from the day-to-day grind. And that's perfect for me, and it's perfectly ample. And we go to a nice hotel and all those kind of things. And that's really how I unwind. Somebody asked earlier, how do I get my downtime? And that's it. I do it in 2 weeks. But yeah, so it's kind of like that, really. I'm waffling. Let's have a quick look. And I guess maybe that brings me on to the next point. I did a video earlier today about people coming back to work. So I guess a quick show of hands or high fives or whatever you want to do in your comments in terms of who is going to go back to work in the next couple of weeks, and who is dreading it and who is excited, because there's going to be challenges with people going back to work. And a lot of those challenges are going to be habit. People are out of the habit of being at work, and a habit takes 66 days predominantly to embed. I can see, Laurie, that a lot of people have worked through, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think if you're in that kind of role, a key worker role, then, you know, hats off to you, because you've obviously had to work hard, and you've obviously had to work at high risk. Oh, it's going to start raining. I'm going to have to move inside in a sec. Let me move inside. I won't lose you as I move inside, because it's going to start raining, and then we can pick the subject up from here. Oh, God. This is where it all goes wrong. I've got to get my computer. Okay. Who wants to go on a walk with Joel? Never mind, join Joel. Let's walk with Joel. So there's all of our inflatables. I'll give you a quick 360. There's the trampoline. Stones are still going to wall. There's the wall that I built last couple of days. It's a treadmill. I haven't been running actually the last couple of days. It's been lovely because it's been so hot in a conservatory. It is ridiculous. And just down here, this is the lawn I planted not that long ago. So I planted a different lawn and put a hedge down the front, and we've got this wall. I love this, and this will showcase how much I love history. This wall in the middle, just here, if I show you. So this wall is about 300 years old, 250, 300 years old. I can't remember exactly, I'd have to check. But it's amazing. We've been slowly working the bits of it that have to be fixed, basically, and making sure we're using the right lime mortar mix and stuff like that, and just bring it all back to life, and really looking after the history of it. Because our house itself was built in 1815. So it's a grade 2 listed property, and it's gorgeous, but yeah, it needs a lot of care and attention and work. Right, hold on, I'm just sitting down at my desk, 2 secs. Do you know what, that feels so much better. Just sat down in my chair, back in my office, unplastered walls. This is what you guys expect. This is what you're used to. I can take this out. I'm going to take the headphones out. Okay, hopefully you should be able to hear me. Let me know if you can't hear me. Right, do let me know if you can't hear me. Yes, James, you're absolutely right. Donald Trump could learn a thing or two from me about building walls. They're all dry stone walls as well. And actually, I've loved it. And again, that's something, I think, Laurie, this is a really good example as to when you were asking earlier about how I got to where I am. I tend to do things, I know I said about this, I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. I said about this, it's about being brave enough to take the leap, to take the challenges. So the wall's a great example of that. I've never built a wall in my life. Never ever done it. I've never built a dry stone wall. Didn't really know how to start. I've seen them, obviously, and I know people that can do it. And I've had some quotes, and that's what prompted us to. We had somebody come around and quote us for our wall, and I think they want $2,500 for this small wall. And by the time we took all the walls in together that we wanted, it was nearly £13,000, which was just madness, absolutely crazy. We weren't having any of that. So off the back of that, Emma and I were like, well, hold on, surely we can do this ourselves. We've got the stone and everything. So we watched some YouTube videos, did some research on it, had a look at it, and basically that was it. That was how we did it. So I looked at the YouTube videos, printed off, found a really good guy that taught all about stone walling and stuff like that. Printed off a list of do's and don'ts and kind of a list of stone walling rules, if you will. And yeah, went out and built our first wall, did that. It's good. And then went to the back and then built the other one yesterday, which is even higher, even wider, even better. In this one, Emma didn't even realize until today, but I made sure there was one stone, which is lovely and flat that you can sit on, and one stone over, I put a little dent into it. It's just got this little like dip, which is perfect for a glass and a beer. So I built that into the top level of the wall, knowing that in the future I'd want to sit there with a beer. So yeah, so I did all that, and that's how you do it. Is you just take the leap and you just go for it. The challenge is when you've got family and children and mortgages and bills to pay, it becomes really hard. And sometimes you have to work 2 jobs to make it work, or you have to do it on the side. It becomes what you call your side hustle. And that's how you sort of build it. And that's kind of what the Business Incubation Hub is there for. Is that the concept of Business Incubation Hub is to support people so they don't make the mistakes that I made. So you don't find yourself £80,000 worth of debt and going, shit, what the fuck do I do now? And you don't then have to spend the next 5 years clawing your way out of it and worry about bailiffs banging on the door and how you're going to feed your kids and those horrendous things that I've had to deal with, that lots of other people have had to deal with. And that's the idea of the Business Incubation Hub, is we can help people not get into that situation in the first place and get them to drive forward their business in a proactive way, I guess, productive way, that doesn't see as high a failure. Because we will still see some failures, unfortunately. That's going to happen, but the rate will be far, far lower because we can provide our experience. So let's have a quick look at some of the comments. I just like to keep up with them. Oh, Matthew's here. Evening, Matthew. Oh, Matthew, what is it you do? Matthew Manning. I'm really looking forward to getting back to working in hospitality business again with football clubs and Formula One. That's cool. Working with football clubs and Formula One. I did a little bit of work with Formula One. So with our first, with my first business, I was one of the sponsors of the Lotus performance team, which is basically like the junior team. So it's underneath the Formula One guys. Still works out the same place, but worked with junior drivers who are part of the Lotus group, Lotus Formula One, and they're aspiring to become better drivers. And actually we ran programs, different health programs, using the devices we did and the applications we did. And Esteban Octon, who's one of the F1 drivers now, I can remember him when he was, I think 12, 13, something like that. It might be a little bit older. And basically he was one of the first kids that came through the Lotus F1 group when we were supplying the sponsorship and the healthcare packages. So I don't think that's why he's now an F1 driver, just to be clear, but that's a nice little link. Sorry, Laurie's just saying, who'd asked me a question earlier, that she's naturally a warrior and an anxious person. She'd love to take the leap, but just needs to get out of her head and get her head around it all before taking the jump. Laurie, I absolutely get that, totally get that. And that's, again, another reason why we have the Incubation Hub, because the Incubation Hub's about helping the person to help the business to drive it forwards. And it's about supporting people so we can, the whole emphasis is to work with people like yourself to get you to a point where you're confident to take the jump, and then you take the jump. That's why it's an Incubation Hub. It's not, you know, what we do when you're 2 years down the line. We work with businesses a couple of years down the line, but we'd have worked with them from bloody flies, but we'd have worked through them from the start, from the beginning point, because that's the whole idea of incubation. But I'll pick up more about anxiety and stuff like that. I mentioned it previously again a few weeks ago about when I went through a hard time with anxiety. Tonight's not the night, but I will do it at some point in the future. Be a bit more of a planned one. We'll obviously, you'll know that's going to happen beforehand. Let me get back to, because I've got about 15 minutes left. I want to talk about people struggling to come back to work. And I did do a little video on that today. And I think for me, that's all about habit. Like I was saying earlier, it takes about 66 days to get into a habit, to get into a routine. And you need to do it pretty much daily to get into a routine. And that's the trouble, is being shut down for 3 months, locked down for 3 months. Lots and lots of people in lots of different industries, lots of different businesses and lots of different positions. I'm not talking just, you know, cleaners and kind of what would generally be seen as the lower end of company. I'm talking about managers, middle management, senior management, director level, all the way up to the top level. And to a degree, even I've got some friends of owners of companies that kind of going, how do we get going again? Because the thing is, in fact, I spoke to somebody the other day, Jesus, I forgot, earlier this week, I spoke to somebody who had been, who's a tiny business, tiny little business. And they've got a very small shop, very small premises, and they got a tiny amount of business rates they pay. So they got 10 grand really quickly when they shut down. Now that is the kind of money that they might see over a 3 or 4 month period for them, tiny business. So they were over the moon they'd got 10 grand. And for me, it's just like, well, 10 grand's helpful, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough to make a huge difference to us. So there are differences in business, and this person's kind of like, oh, I'm gonna have to go back to work. But I think it's the fact that people are now used to not having to get up for anything specific. You know, it's the idea of, I don't have to set an alarm clock. I don't have to get dressed today, or I don't have to get dressed into my work attire. I don't have to go into the office. I don't have to be back at a certain time. You know, the routine's completely different. And we've been doing that for a while. So people are now having to come back to an office or having to go back to a work environment. It's going to be quite difficult. It's going to be quite different. And I think people are going to struggle with that, and they're going to, they're going to find it an issue, and companies are going to struggle with that because they're not going to necessarily know how to deal with it. And I was saying earlier, I think those that will succeed are going to be those that employers lead from the front. They drive forward the key things with the employees. They get them motivated, they get them enthused, they engage them. And they get them going back into that machine, because people do want to come back to work. They're just out of the routine. And maybe that's how I should have positioned the video earlier. I'm just going to make sure the comments, so I see them coming in, so I don't want to make sure I miss anything. I love a good gin. Somebody just saying about how they're back to work, and they've been panicking about going back to work. So I think it's going to be difficult for people to go back, and it's going to be hard for businesses, and businesses that don't recognize that with their employees, don't recognize the issues, don't recognize the challenges, the concerns, and can't get employees motivated and engaged and enthused about where they're going, they're going to struggle. But more importantly, that I think companies that can do that are going to fly. And that's a big thing for us. And it's a big thing for me, and I'm happy to talk about it publicly because I press it with my team all the time. My managers hear this every single day. And I think they're probably fed up of hearing it, but they will continue to hear it every single day, and their teams will continue to hear it. And more importantly, they will see it. They will see the passion, they will see the drive, and they will see everything we're doing. And that's what it's about for us at the moment as a company. It's about bringing our team back and bringing them back into work, but engage them, enthusing them, motivating them, showing them what the future holds and why it's exciting and why they should be passionate about it and how they can be passionate about it, and the opportunities it brings not just for them, but for the business, for the industry, for all of our customers and for our visitors, and why it's such a key driver for us as a business, because we are employee led. So I think if companies can do that, they will really start to fly. And if you can't, I think you're going to struggle a little. The only saving grace for an employer, and I hate to say this, I do. This really, I think this upsets me. I think it's upset that I feel with this. It is currently, and it is going to continue to be for probably the next 6 months, it is going to be an employer's market. And by that, I mean, it's the employer is going to have all of the choice, and they're going to have so much more, power is the wrong word, but it's kind of the right sentiment, I think, in the sense of there's going to be so many people out of work. There is going to be in August. I mean, if you think we've seen redundancies now, give it another month and we're going to see huge redundancies. We're going to see job losses on a scale we haven't seen ever before. And we're probably going to see the unemployment rate certainly scale past 2 million, if not up to sort of 2.5 million. It's going to be big, because the trouble is, as a business, and I know this because I do it every single day, is when we go back to work as a business and things like the furlough schemes stop and the government support schemes stop, if you don't have the customers coming through the door that you did when you closed, you don't have the income coming in that you need, but you still have the costs associated with it. So what the first thing people will do is they'll start cutting down on employees, and we will see big redundancies. We will see lots of companies go under. We're going to see some big job losses. And because of that, what's then going to happen is there's going to be a much bigger market, a lot more people unemployed, a lot more competition for jobs, and that is going to give the power back to the employer, or it's going to give the power to the employer. And that's kind of the wrong shift. I mean, it should be a balance rather than a power shift back and forth. And that concerns me slightly, because I think that when one party has power over the other, power is the wrong word. I can't think of the right word, too many ciders and gins. But when one party has too much say or sway over the other, that's when you start to get problems. And it comes down to my 1 to 25 rule. And if an employer starts squeezing employee contracts and changing conditions to benefit them rather than the employee, then you're going to end up with the 1 to 25 scenario. And that's only going to gain momentum. You're going to end up 1 to 20, 1 to 15, 1 to 10. And that's going to be a problem. So I think, it's going to be a difficult balance. And I think it's going to come down to employers. And I'm going to really press over the next 4 weeks. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot. I'm going to really press employers to do the right thing and to make sure they're still pushing everything they can to their employees and trying to hold on to people as best they can. We're not looking at redundancies, if I'm honest. It's certainly not something we looked at all until Saturday, until last Saturday when the council told us we couldn't open. That was a difficult position for us because we knew financially of where we'd sit and we had to look at it. And there was a conversation that then was had about redundancies. It was a very brief conversation, but there was a conversation that was had, and it ended very, very quickly with me saying, we're not going to do it, because we've worked so hard to get the team that we have, and they work so hard to bring the business to where it is. Getting rid of them is just, it's not a choice for us. It's not something we're going to do. We're all in this together, and that's how we're going to do it. I've said to my team a few times, we're going to succeed in this together, or we're going to fail in this together, but we're in it together. And that, I believe, is the right ethos for a company to take. And not all of your employees are going to bind into that, but that is the right ethos to take as an employer. Right, I've waffled. Let me just flick through some comments. If you bought Reading gel, I'd love to be involved in the history of it. I tell you what, I ain't buying Reading jail. I can promise you that much for now, because Reading jail is not going to be cheap. At the moment, I'm struggling to afford Shrewsbury jail, and Reading's going to probably be 5-6 times the cost of that. So that ain't going to happen. We might get involved in it if somebody else buys it and they want us to be involved. Absolutely. But certainly I'm going to be buying it. Didn't even put a bid in for it. Let's have a quick look. See, Kathy, you go back in September. That is mad. I mean, if you start working in March, that's April, May, June, July, August. It's 5 months, nearly half a year of not being at work. The mind boggles to how you can not do something for 5 months and then just straight back into it. It's going to be such a challenge. And I guess the only comparison I can give that some people may be able to relate to is if you've been on for a long sickness period or maternity, for example. It's a long time not to be there, and then just to drop back in. People working from home, going back into the offices, absolutely. That's an interesting point, actually, about people not working in offices, working from home and stuff like that. As again, I know loads of people with different perspectives, and I've got my own position on it. After 3 months, James, after 3 months off, 7 a.m. starts have been absolutely atrocious. Yeah, that's it though. You're out of routine, you're out of habit. 66 days, mate. You're going to have to go 66 days, just over 2 months of doing it every single day to get back into the habit. And the 66-day marker is kind of, you have to do it almost every single day, which is why it's so tough with things like the gym. You can't just go for 2 months because you miss days, because you have rest days. So actually you end up having to go for 3 months to get in your 66 days. So yeah, it is tough. Love to back to work, waiting to find out if I'm laid off though through lack of work in my company. Yeah, Stephen, I think that's going to be a really common, a really, really common thing of people being laid off. It's there's no answer to it. Do you know what I mean? There's no answer to it. It's such a difficult one. Randomly, someone's just dropped in about ghosts and stuff in the prison. So I'm just thinking, BAF, absolutely, yeah. Airlines is a massive one. Airlines are a huge struggle, and you can't. Oh, somebody's in my kitchen. It's the ghosts. You can't blame some of these companies either. Like BA, for example. I mean, look, there's you'll see good things written about BA, bad things written about BA. You'll see employees and customers who have good experience and bad experiences, like in any company. You get both. But it's not their fault. And I think that's the thing with pretty much all of these companies. It's not their fault they're in the position they are in, because COVID has obviously caused that. But it's how they deal with it coming out the other end. And some companies are going to have to make redundancies. There's no doubt about it. That's the only way they will survive. Others might go down that route thinking that's the best way to do it in the short term. But let me just give you this with an employee. For example, for us as a company, if we said, okay, right, we need to make some cuts now, because cash flow and short-term cash flow is going to hurt us. And if we don't make the cuts, it's going to be difficult. So we make the cuts now. Let's say we get rid of, I don't know, 2-3 staff. Actually, let's say we get rid of 5. Let's say we get rid of 10% of our workforce. We get rid of 5 staff. Now those jobs are going to be backfilled. So let's say 2 of those are at each of the prisons and 1 central. So operationally, we already have to backfill those. Or if we even got rid of central people that we don't necessarily have to backfill in terms of people on shift, or people have to be on site in the prisons. Either way, we get rid of 5 people. 6 months time, so we save the money, absolutely fine. So we can balance our books over the next 6 months, no worries. And then over the next 6 months, we start to build and build and build. And then 6 months time, we kind of get back to where we should be, which is what I think our plan looks like specifically for our business, is a six month phased return, effectively, to just get back to where we were. So I think February. And we go through February half term, and we start scaling up and scaling up and scaling up. And we get to Easter, and we're kind of like, okay, right, now we're starting to go. So, we're 8 months down the line. Now we have to recruit again. So we're 8 months down the line, and now we have to recruit. And we're probably going to have to recruit 4 jobs, if not the 5, to replace the ones we got rid of. So by the time we've then gone through drawing up ads, By the time we've done all the recruitment process, the HR process and stuff, all of which take time and cost money, and we get it all out there, and then we get all the people coming back in. So we get all the applications, we do our initial sift. All of this takes time. We get everybody in for their first phone interviews, and then we shortlist, and then we do the actual interviews. All again takes time, costs money. Then we finally appoint the 5 people. So we get our 5 new people. Now we have to train them. Now we have to get them new uniform. Then we have to get them into the process. Then we have to get them shadowing people. Then we actually have to get them on and in and running and up to a standard that the 5 people we got rid of are already at that standard. They've been doing it for a couple of years. It's going to cost us more money to do that in the long run than it is to keep those people in that 8-month period. It absolutely will. We will spend more money doing that. That was a huge number of staff. It's like 4,000 people. It's a bit different. But by the time you've paid the redundancy as well, there's no benefit. So the challenge comes to, as a company, managing short-term cash flow. And that is about planning. Realistically, that's what it comes down to. So I'm just going to flip through comments. Oh, Jesus, 45 minutes. Right, we're nearly there. Okay. Oh, sorry, Laurie, I didn't mean to laugh. How come Reading's so expensive? Firstly, it's Reading. Secondly, it's big. I think Reading's, oh God, I think it's 8 acres, 9 acres. Thirdly, not all of it's listed. It is a stone's throw from London by train. It is a big gated community. So if you could then just develop into housing, you basically have a gated housing community in Reading right next to a train station to be able to get to London. It is going to go for serious money. All right, let's have a quick flick through. Schools. Let's have a working from home subject video then, Joe. Okay, Simon, yeah, you've got it. I will do working from home. I'll put that on my board right now. You guys will get to see how these things work. Stick it over on here. Video. Working from home. I'll stick in the 1 to 25 as well. So I've talked about that a little bit as well. It's there, it's on my board. It's up there, working from home, and then the 1 to 25 video. So I'll do that over the next few days. Maternity is a struggle, absolutely. So I'm just flicking through some of the comments. I think I'm pretty much there, really. I'm now interested to see what you guys are saying. I'm always interested. It sounds really bad. Sometimes I say things, I'm like, shit, did I just say that? That's why Harriet's there to always watch me on the lives. I don't mean it like that. I want to see what people are saying, so I've just been waffling. Anyway, I'll shut up now. To look after staff's mental health. Yeah, it's so difficult. It's so hard. I just think that the go-to for companies, and it does depend on the size. The go-to is, right, we need to save money, right, cut staff. And if you've got good people in the first place and you've positioned your business well, you should never need to get rid of staff. That should never be your go-to. And I always say to my team, especially the sales and marketing team and the operational teams, you can only cut costs so far. Excuse me, I'm drinking too much gin. You can only cut costs so far, and to a point, you then start impacting on service. And as soon as you impact on service delivery, it's a big downhill slope, and you're going to go down it quick. So actually, you're better off not trying to save money. You're better off trying to increase the income. How you do that is a challenge, or you start to balance more to the bottom line. But getting rid of people is not always the short answer. Yeah, Debenhams, yeah, people finding out through the media and get no pay, absolutely. Yeah, I don't disagree, Hannah. Hannah's talking about BA taking advantage of COVID to finally beat the unions. I don't know enough about it to make a really informed decision. What I can tell you is that you are always going to find people, always, customers and employees alike, who will have good stories and who will have bad stories, good experiences, bad experiences. You're always going to find that. Personally, I would never bank on that West. but that's because my feeling is of the way that they treated me at the time. And I needed them to have a little bit of faith in me. And if they had, then I would be banking in NatWest now with all of my companies, and they would be seeing a good chunk of money coming through. And in 10 years' time, when I hit 100 million through my companies, that's all going to go through NatWest. So that they're going to miss out on that because they didn't treat me the way I feel that they should have treated me, and didn't support me the way I feel they should have supported me, and the way I needed them to support me a few years ago. So now I bank with Barclays. And I think that's the same with any company anyway. You're always going to find customers and employees and staff who have good experiences, bad experiences. And I think it's the same in prison services. Speak to Graham about it. He'll be able to go through that. Apparently I'm very nice and friendly. Not always. I have a side to me that's not so nice. I do demand from my team. I like to think I'm a really good employer. I'm not a good person to ask. You need to ask my employees as to whether they think I'm a good employer, because ultimately they'll give you the true answer. But I do demand high. I do have high standards, and I've been pulled up on it before. I've had employees say to me, employees that have left and employees we still have, they said, it doesn't matter what we do, Joel's standards are too high. And I've turned around and said, I will not apologize for my high standards, and I will not allow you to make excuses. I will not allow you to use my high standards as your reason for not doing your job to the standard I feel that you should be doing it to. So I do have high standards, and I can be quite demanding, but then we have an awful lot we give back. So yeah, I'm not always seen as a nice guy. Let's get that one out there now. So always two sides to a coin. Yeah, Hannah, you're absolutely right. Lots of companies are having to restructure to survive. And I think that's key, restructuring, refocusing. Yeah, most times it goes. Right. Do you know what? I think I'm there, guys. I'm reading through. Oh, Jesus Christ, there's loads. Sorry, I don't know. I normally get this many comments on the lives and stuff. Yeah, Matthew left HSBC for that reason. I've still got an HSBC account, but I've never banked with them business, only personally. People are saying whether they've met me, whether they've not met me, stuff like that. Guys, if you come into the prison, come to the ticket office, ask if Joel's there. If you want to meet Lauren or Stacey or Graham, just ask if we're there. If we're there, we will absolutely come down and say hi. I promise. Yeah, no, we will. No, we will. We will come down and say hi. So just ask in the ticket office. They'll give us a call, and we can come down. Or you just ping me on Facebook or Instagram. Okay, right. I think I'm there. I've reached kind of the end point. It's, I've gone on far too long. So let's finish that. Thank you very much. George, this has become the highlight of my week. I got in trouble with this the other day with my wife, and I can see she sat outside. I got in trouble with this the other day because she asked me last Thursday, how did it go? And it's the highlight of my week. She said, what? I was like, it's the highlight of my week. It's like, I enjoy it because it's it's unplanned, it's unprepared. It's the only part of my week that is completely, anything can kind of happen. So I really enjoy it. And I don't always come into it going, oh, great. Sometimes I'm like, oh, Christ, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that you guys watch it. So thank you very, very much for listening to me waffle on and just go on and on and on. Thank you very much for the comments and the questions, because that helps me flow through. Obviously, feel free to share it. It's always nice to have new people come on. I don't know when we're doing our next live. I know we've got one on Wednesday with Graham. We obviously open on the 4th. I'll have a chat with Loza and see when we're doing the next one in terms of the ghost hunts, but obviously I'll continue to do this every Thursday. So that's set in stone. So that's it. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you guys all next Thursday, but I will continue to do obviously videos and stories over the coming week. Now let's figure out how to turn it off again. I thought I figured it out by now. Anyway, that's me. Thank you guys. Take care.